Coming up on this episode of Discover Health Podcast.
If you have breath in your lungs today, then God has a plan for your life. And so it doesn't matter how high or low you are in your daily, life, but if you literally just have hope, right? That you do have breath in your lungs today and God has a plan for you. And so if he has a plan for you, you're not done yet. So then you can just start working with what is that plan. And then when you start getting towards an understanding what that plan is, your confidence grows, you start feeling better, and you're like, I am doing what God wanted me to do.
Welcome to the Discover Health Podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to another episode of Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joshua Sharp, and joining me today is a new friend, Rene. Rob is a former high-level athlete and a near-death survivor turned faith-based natural health advocate. He's a keynote speaker and host of the I Am Pain-Free podcast. As a frequency medicine specialist, herbalist, and molecular hydrogen researcher, he helps people break free from big pharma by combining biblical healing, herbs, with modern science through his company, Exodus Strong. His mission is to guide people into a more vibrant, pain-free life rooted in energy, wellness, and faith. Thanks for joining me today, Rob.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear more about your story. It sounds so interesting when I've read about you and things that I've seen already, but I know that you went from being an elite athlete to a near-death survivor after being hit by a truck while running. So for someone listening today that might be in pain, can you take us into that moment and that season that followed and how that changed you?
Yeah, it's just like such an impactful time in my life. I think that I kind of frame it as I've been hit by multiple trucks in my life, and that was the first one, and it was a physical one, like a real 4x4 truck. I'm out on a long distance run with my friend, and I was a really good collegiate runner. We were out running a 10-mile run, and on that run, I ended up getting hit by a 4x4 truck in the winter. The truck just slid right into me and threw me 36 feet, and I landed straight on my face and literally should have died that day. And it was just a whole bunch of crazy little things that happened. That was just like, it's a miracle that I survived that, which is pretty crazy. But then the hard thing, from a physical perspective is here I was, kind of at the top of my game. Everything was going well in my life. My goal at that time was to be a professional runner. So I got a full ride running scholarship to a Division I school. I made the U.S. junior team. So I was the second best miler in our country at that particular time. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get hit by a truck, and your goals and aspirations and everything you've been training for a decade is just gone. And so that was not only physically tough, but also very, very mentally tough. Yeah, from a pain and recovery perspective, I had to learn a lot during that period. So that was the first big movement in my life. But
I can only imagine what that must have been like. We've got our own plans for our life and
yeah,
what we think our life is going to look like, what we think the trajectory of our life is headed towards. But God sometimes has other plans, and I'm thankful that you're still here.
yeah, I
So,
appreciate that. Me
what type
too.
of yeah, absolutely. It is a miracle, getting hit by a truck and getting thrown that far. Obviously, there was a lot of force there. What type of injuries did you have? And, how long was the physical recovery process for you?
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Like literally I landed straight on my face. So this whole side of my face was opened up. I had a great big huge gash. Had to have a plastic surgeon come in and redo that side of my face. And then my kneecap was broken, and my pelvis was broken in multiple places, and I was in pretty bad shape. But and so the recovery took months. And then the funny thing about it is, for 10 years I've been running like a lot, and I was running 70 miles a week probably at that particular time. And when I got hit, obviously, I'm not running, and my body physically matured during that period. I was 19, 20 years old when it happened. And so I was mature, but at the same point, I'd been running so much that I don't think my body ever filled out. And so I ended up gaining 20 pounds of muscle during that recovery period, which was fine. But the problem was, when I tried to make a comeback from a running perspective, my body was different. I was a different person. And so it really made my running a lot more difficult and a lot harder to make a comeback. So anyway, I had injuries. I'll never forget the second day in the hospital. I'm laying there, and I hadn't seen myself. And somebody gave me a mirror and looked at that, and I just started bawling, because it was the hardest thing, because this whole side of my face was just. And I don't want to be disrespectful to people that have deformities, but it was like literally I looked like the Elephant Man. It was like I looked so different than what I was as a young man, right? And all of a sudden it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna look like this the rest of my life. No one's gonna love me. It was just like I had this feeling deep inside me. It was just like devastation, right? It's just like, wow. And so I have a lot of empathy for people who have deformities and or just have issues, and just like you get to the point where it's just like, wow, I'm not that no one's gonna love me again. And that was the hardest thing ever for me, was the emotional part of that recovery. Not necessarily the physical took forever, but the emotional part was really difficult too. But so yeah. Anyway,
First of all, that makes so much sense. And just the thoughts that you had, and thank you for being so real and sharing those things with us. Can you walk us through a little bit? I mean, obviously, you've physically recovered. I mean, looking at you, I mean, you really can't tell that you had that significant of an injury. So,
yeah, it's pretty bizarre. This side of my face, you can't even tell like much, right? You can see a little bit of scar maybe here, but
yeah.
that's yeah, pretty incredible.
So we know a little bit about what went into the physical recovery. What do you think really helped you with the emotional recovery?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think I've always been a Christian, but at the same point, I was never really, I was one of those Christians, but yeah, a Sunday Christian. I'd go to church and love the service, but then I wouldn't even think about church or read the Bible, or wouldn't do anything in between, right? And but I do think that just having that faith grounded in a faith helped me get through that period, because I'm like, hey, there's obviously a reason why I'm here on this earth, because I should have died that day and I didn't. So he must have some plan for me. So I did what the world tells you to do. I literally went into the corporate world, and I finished my degree, and I got married, and I had 3 kids, and I got a house with a white picket fence, and I got a dog, and I did everything that the world tells you to do. And I just strived for me, 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 me. It was like I just went into this mode. It was like I gotta have the best job. I gotta make the most money. I gotta, it was like all driven about being a success in what's defined in our society as success. And I chased that for decades. And I was pretty good at it, but at the same point, I just didn't have this underpinning, um, just uh, peace. It was just something missing, and it took the second truck that hit me to really give me my purpose. And I'm really excited about life right now, because even though it's the most trying part of my life, it also is the most satisfying. It's like I really feel I am doing what God has me on this earth for. If I go back and look at all the things that have happened in my life, it's amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, he was training me to do this, and then bam, things changed, and now he was training me to do that, and then bam, something else majorly changed. Right? And it's like, oh my gosh, when I look back at it now, I can see that. But as you're going through the trials and tribulations, you never feel like that. And but so anyway, that's when I got really uh, passionate about all natural health was after the second truck. So
Yeah.
that's an important part of the conversation. But I want to make sure I finished. Did I answer your question on the that
It
second
answered
part?
my yeah, absolutely. And I've been just started reading the book of Ecclesiastes, and I think I'm in chapter 3 right now, and Solomon is he's he's trying out different things. He's trying out, business success. He's trying out, seeking every kind of pleasure that he can. And what he eventually realizes is like, yeah, it feels good for a little bit, but there's still something missing.
Yeah,
And I think you know, you've experienced that a little bit yourself, but there's such a gratifying experience when you recognize and when you feel like you're doing what God called you to do and you're fulfilling the purpose that he has for you. So
yeah.
you mentioned the second truck. So it's hard to imagine you got hit by one truck and you survived. Let's talk about this second truck that hit you. And this happened during the pandemic. And I know that you started seeing natural health doctors. They were being vilified. They were being, held up as like, oh man, avoid these people at all costs.
That's
These are
right.
this is your enemy. What were you seeing that made you say something is really wrong with our medical system?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Literally, That's what woke me up was going through that process because as I saw them vilifying this, it was vitamin D, literally the sun. It was like because when I was an athlete, right, I was one of the books that I had read that was really impactful to my running was called Eat to Win, and it was all about nutrition and how what you put in your body, fuels your body, and that helped me tremendously as a runner. And so I always had that as a base, right? I knew that what you put in this body really helps you. So that when the pandemic hit, I'm like, okay, I got to start figuring out how I can keep my family safe. And so I started doing a lot of research on supplements and just ways that I could do things naturally to help my family. And so I was researching it, and then all of a sudden I saw the vilification of this doctor. He was an amazing health practitioner. He was talking about vitamin D, and the government was suing him for billions of dollars with a B. I was like, oh, wow, that's really bad. Vitamin D must be really bad, or he's a really bad doctor, or there's something really going on. So I started doing all this research, and that's what I got this skill set of research where I'd never had that in my life. I'd done research for whatever I was doing with my job, and but I never really sat back and kind of was looking at what's going on in the world. So this was the first time I ended up losing my job. That was a second truck was that hit me is with the pandemic. I was a traveling salesperson and I traveled all across the West Coast and I couldn't travel with the pandemic. So they downsized the sales team. And so literally it was like first time I had time. So I'm like, okay, well, let's start researching this vitamin D thing. Well, vitamin D, is it really bad? So I went and dug into vitamin D and like, oh my gosh, vitamin D is like essential to life, right? We don't have vitamin D, we don't have oxygen, right? It's like literally a key part of who we are as a person. And then so I'm like, okay, vitamin D is not bad. Of course, you can abuse anything, but still, vitamin D in itself is not bad. Then I was like, this doctor must be really bad. So let me dig into to see what's wrong with him. Well, he must be just a bad dude. The more research I did on him, he was an amazing health practitioner, helping people with natural remedies and natural solutions, and just had a heart to help people. So I'm like, I don't see the thing. So why? Why are they suing him for billions of dollars? And then I started researching on the motivation of why they were suing him, and that's when I uncovered, what I believe is just how our healthcare system in the early 1900s got taken over. The Rockefellers created this report called the Flexner Report, and they used that report for really nefarious purposes. And they ended up taking over all of our medical schools back then, and then vilifying all natural health practitioners. Back then, it was like 50-50. We had 50% of our practitioners were all natural, holistic people, and 50% of them were in some type of medical field. And nowadays, you fast forward to 2026, and there's like 0.01% are all natural health practitioners, right? Compared to back then. So they did a fantastic job of squashing the all natural health, but they did it really for nefarious purposes, right? The Rockefellers, they with those medical schools, they only taught pharmaceutical based medication, and the reason why is because they could patent it. So it was literally all about money. And
Absolutely.
you look at how powerful our medical cartel is, I call it,
Hmm.
that is in power today. It's absolutely frightening when you do the research, because you see how powerful they are. They own the research, they own the scientists, they own the media, they own so much of information that they control all of it. And when I found that out, that's when I really got pissed off. I was so mad at the world. I was so mad. I was like, how can I be so deceived? And 50 years of my life not knowing that this is going on. And so that was really eye opening. And so that was like that's why I have to call it a truck, because it really took me from I was in going one direction, all of a sudden, boom, my whole life got swept out from underneath me, kind of like back when I was a young runner. And so the fun thing for me now is it's like, oh my gosh, I don't believe anything anybody tells me. Is I'll take the information you'll give me, but then I'm going to go do my own research, because I've found that there's lots of research that's tainted research, and it's paid for research. And so you have to really dig in and look at the motivation behind the research and
Hmm.
understand, is that really true information? So that got me so interested in all natural health and this whole field. I was like, how can I, little Rob, make a difference in this world? And I wasn't sure how. So I started trying to figure out ways I could create solutions to help people. And I started digging in. And one of the first things I started looking at was nutrition and supplements. But then I had a friend introduce to me the quantum energy frequencies, and I was like, "What the heck is?" I heard about they told me about what it was, and I thought it was crazy. I'm like, "Give me a break!" Right? He gave me a sticker, and this little sticker you put on your body. And I'm like, okay, I got a sticker on my body. What's that gonna do? And I was like, "Has it got medicine that's gonna help me and go inside my body?" He's like, "No." I'm like, What do you mean?" He's like, "No, there's a frequency on it, and the frequency is gonna help you." And I'm just like, "Come on, right? Give me a break." And so I literally didn't understand any of it. So I did research, right?
When your drainage system backs up, your body cannot eliminate waste effectively, and that leaves you vulnerable to chronic inflammation and illness. Bowel Mover supports healthy elimination at the colon, keeping your drainage funnel flowing. Find it at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. High quality supplements for real healing. And don't forget to use code FIRST10 for 10% off your first order.
Start digging into to what he was telling me, and I didn't believe it. But as I researched the human body, I realized the human body is made up of energy, and that was really eye opening. I didn't know that. And then I started doing research on frequencies. Frequencies sounded like a really complex term or a weird term to me. We're like, oh my gosh, frequencies are everywhere, right? It's like the radio you listen to is a frequency. The cell phone that we all use uses frequencies. Light and color are frequencies. I'm like, okay, so frequencies aren't weird. It's just I didn't understand them. So then I understood that doing research that frequencies can have a physical impact on external things. And that's where it really opened my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So these frequencies that can interact with the human body can make a difference to the human body. And that opened up my eyes to a whole different world. And I started digging in and doing research on frequencies and quantum energy and subtle energy and things like that. And it's like, wow. And we end up looking at these patches and a lot further, and we wanted to try it with people. So we started sharing it with people, and it was one of the products is a pain relief patch. And so we helped people that had pain, and we're like, does this help? Try it. And they would try it, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've had this pain for X number of years, and all of a sudden it's gone. I was like, are you sure? Let me take it away from you. Then try it again. And it's like, my gosh, these people were getting help from a patch, a little small patch. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So that's what I really dug into to trying to help people was with our quantum energy skin patches. I got a company called
Man.
QE Strong, and we have these energy patches that help with all different types of health issues. It's like allergies and pain and anxiety, like we have 14 different products. So it's a really, really fun thing to do. And then as you can see, the shirt I have is Exodus. That was the next big thing that I dug into was how can I help people as I was researching all these fun, nutrients, and I was reading the Bible. And I guess that's probably a really important part of this my story is as I was doing research on all this medical field and corruption, I got really, really depressed and upset and mad. But so it's actually literally started researching the Bible as well. And so I'm like, okay, I've always, now have time. I'm gonna actually research the Bible. If the Bible is it true, right? So I started digging into the Bible and reading it, and did a whole bunch of textual criticism research and archaeology research and prophetic research. I was like, oh my gosh, that document is like the most verified document ever in existence. And it was
100%.
really, yeah, it's just amazing. It's
Yeah,
like if you go do research on it, it's like it's undeniable. And so I'm
undeniable.
like, okay, if it's that verifiable and verified, then maybe I should read it. So I actually read it, right, and read it a number of times now, and I really developed a personal relationship with God during that period. And so then He's been leading me just time and time again on what to do and where to go. And Exodus is a perfect example of that. I was researching all of the herbs and superfoods that are in the Bible. And I'm like, man, maybe I can find some combination that no one else has done before that can really help people. Because that's my heart, right? Is really to help people and do it in a really natural way. And gosh, God is so good because He was, helping me understand all these ingredients. But I was like, there's nothing and he introduced me to this practitioner who's been working on a molecular hydrogen component that when we started researching what molecular hydrogen does to the body, I'm like, holy smokes, that's like really powerful. It goes, it's
Yeah.
an antioxidant, right? Gets into the bloodstream and helps get rid of things. Go ahead. You were going to say
Yeah,
something.
I would if before we get into the molecular hydrogen, because I
Yeah.
definitely want to touch on that because it is so powerful and it is, I mean, it is really neat to think about the possibilities with the molecular hydrogen. But before we get there, I
Yeah.
want to backtrack a little bit to what you were
Sounds
talking
good.
about
Sorry, I kept
with
going and going and going.
that's okay. You're excited about what you do, and I'm excited about listening to it and learning from it. But I want to jump back to when you were talking about the frequency,
Yeah.
because as believers, there's things sometimes that kind of, pop up a red flag, or they kind of make you feel like, okay, what's going on here? And for the Christian out there, for the Christian mom out there that
Yeah.
might be like a little, wait a minute, what is this? Is this, something that I shouldn't be messing with? Is this something, like, what do I want to say? Maybe
Woo
like
woo. Yeah.
taboo from a biblical
Yep.
perspective. What led you as a believer? What led you to feel like, yeah, this is something that God has for us, and this is something that can be really beneficial?
Yeah, I started researching it, right, and dug in. If you read the Bible, frequencies are in the Bible a lot. Like literally, light is important, right? It's the first thing that God created was light, and so light is very important. And you look, there's lots of references to frequencies in the Bible itself. So then I started like, hey, God created all of these. God created frequencies. And that's when I was researching the human body too. I was like, oh my gosh, He created this body so wonderfully and so complex that they still can't figure it all out, even though there's been tons of
Not
research
even
on the
close.
body for
Yeah,
decades, right? But there's still things we're learning about how God made it, and that God is so cool. He made it to where it heals itself, right? You cut yourself, and guess what? Your body's going to heal. But you
absolutely.
need to give it the right nutrients to give it the right setup. And so this frequency stuff, the more I learned about it, it was like there are evil people who, the devil does interesting things, and he works with evil people to do evil things. And I believe they've tried to take over the frequency world to say, because people believe it's woo woo, but it's really not. That
It's
God
really
created it
not.
all, did
Yeah,
it
it's
all.
absolutely. Talking with members of the United States Armed Forces, it's I mean, it's not a secret anymore, but there are weapons that are frequency based weapons that can
Yeah.
create panic, that can create fear in the enemy. And
Yes.
they use them and they say, well, our enemies have things like that. And so we need to have, we need to have a defense against it, and we need to have our own, understand the technology and everything. And so it's
That's right.
out there, it's being used, whether you recognize it or not. And I
That's right.
totally agree. I like how you pointed out that, it can be used for good things, it can be used for healing. And I think, like, especially when you're talking about frequencies, Saul was, King Saul in the Old Testament, he was tormented by a spirit, right? And what
Mhm.
soothed him, what helped him to be able to be at peace? It was David playing the harp. It was
The
frequency,
music, yes, that
musical
yeah,
frequency, David playing
yeah,
the harp. And so there's something to that. Absolutely, absolutely
100%.
something to
Yep,
that.
yep,
But it
there's
also, frequency can be used for nefarious purposes, like you just pointed out. And I think there's
yeah,
so many things, a gun could be used to protect your family, but it could also be used for crime. And so
that's right.
it's the tool, but it's how you use the tool, right?
That's it. That's exactly right. And it's just that we need to educate people that it's not nefarious, right? And
Mm-mm.
frequencies aren't bad.
No,
Frequencies, like you said, could be good or bad. It's just how you're using it. And so, the more I educate people on frequencies, and then I introduce them to like Dr. Emoto. Have you heard of Dr. Emoto and his studies? Yeah, he did some fun. Just real quick for your audience, one of the things I love to tell people is this rice experiment. He did this experiment for 30 days. He had 3 jars of rice, and they all had the same amount of water and rice in them. And for 30 days, one of the jars he would tell it he loved it. In the middle jar, he would just yell at it and say he hated it and swear at it. And then the third jar he would ignore. And he did that for 30 straight days. And at the end of the 30 days, you can see this the one that he loved and cared for. It was still basically white, and the one that he swore at and cursed at was disgustingly moldy and gross, and the one he ignored was almost as bad as the one that he had bad intentions toward. So it literally he's proved that these intentions and frequencies that we give off as humans have a physical impact on external things.
it
And
can.
there's tons and tons and tons of research behind that, which is it's really hard to understand, right? Because it's like, what? How does that work? But then when you do see it and you understand that it's not weird, it is scientific, and this is stuff that God designed, right? Then you're like, okay, then let's figure out ways to use it for good. And so that's what I'm having fun with is let's take these solutions that people just don't understand, and let's do it in a natural way to help people. God just made this body so cool, so complex. But if we give it the right setup and the right makeup and the right ingredients, it's going to do amazing things. And so that's what I'm super passionate about is just let's get this body what it needs, and let the Lord heal it through the way he designed our bodies. I don't call myself a healer. I don't call it the tools that I use to help people be healers. It's like God is a healer. We're just giving the
Absolutely.
body how he designed it, and get it back to there, and then it will heal itself.
I Yeah, couldn't agree more. I say that phrase over and over and over again. The body, God made the body to heal itself, and
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You can observe that. You can watch it, like you talked about with a cut. So going just touching on the frequency just a little bit more, you're talking about like a sticker or like a patch or something that you would apply to the body and containing that frequency and emitting that. So a couple questions regarding that is how do you get a frequency to kind of adhere, or how do you get it to be part of the makeup of that material that's on that sticker? That's question number 1. And is there a difference between a bigger, more powerful signal when it comes to frequency? Maybe I'm just going to make this up. Maybe if you took 100 of those patches, or maybe if you had a different type of frequency emitting device, like a sound emitting device emitting a stronger, more powerful signal, are there differences between what's in that sticker and what you might get from a different frequency emitting device?
Yeah, this is a awesome question. Lots to unpack in that. So I'll address it from from the beginning from our actual physical patch perspective. So
Hmm.
the fun thing about these patches is we put little microscopic crystals. It's a crystalline structure, is what it is, and it's been proven by IBM science and Stanford scientists that you can program these little crystals with information, very similar to how a computer holds ones and zeros. Little hard drive has information on it. These little crystalline structures can hold information, and so. But the neat thing about it is they can hold more than just a one and a zero. It can hold literally frequencies, and it can hold intentions. It can hold hold this information. So then, when you apply it to your biofield, your human energy field, which there's proof about the human energy field. And when you research that, it's undeniable too that it's a fact that we do have an energy system within our body. That's how God designed us, right? And so if you put those frequencies within the human biofield, then it will interact with it. So it's like all of a sudden you're plugging into the wall, right? Kind of. So we have these little crystalline structures that are on these patches, and you put them onto the body, and it like plugs into your human body's electrical system. And then it starts, it's really fascinating. We have these EEG hats, right, where you can monitor your brain waves.
Yes.
And that's the one way we can prove and show to you how these frequencies interact with the body, because have you put the EEG hat on, and then have the card interact with you. And beforehand, let's say you were in pain. When you're in pain, your brain waves are going like this because you're in strife. Your body's like, hey, there's something wrong. That's why you feel pain. And then we introduce the patch to them, and all of a sudden you see their brain waves start evening out, and it's just really crazy, and it happens really quickly. Within 5 seconds you can start seeing a change, and then all of a sudden, people you'll ask them, okay, how do you feel in 10 minutes? And there's like, yeah, I don't feel as much pain as I did. And it's like, and then but you can see their waves because their body it's basically blocking that path from the pain to the brain, and they don't feel it. And so it's just really fascinating to see how that little patch can hold that information in it, and then it can interact with that body's energy field. So that's the one answer. I think you asked a couple of other questions. What else did I not answer?
Well, I ask about, is there a difference between what happens with your body with what can be contained just on one of those patches
Mm.
versus like a different frequency emitting, device that may emit a more powerful signal with more with the same frequency, but just more power behind it. Is there a difference in how your body responds? Would putting 10 patches, 100 patches on make a difference versus just one?
Yeah,
Could
that's actually an awesome question. And I think it depends on one, the frequency, and what the intention of what you're trying to accomplish is. Like from our patch perspective, it doesn't matter whether you put one patch or 100 patches on it, because it all has that same information. That same information is once it connects to the energy system in your body. That's what kind of fascinating. If you have pain in your elbow, for example, you can put the patch on your elbow, but you don't need to. That's what's really strange. I put them on the patches on my back, by my spine, just because I'm like, hey, that's a central nervous system. It's like, but literally doesn't matter because since it's connected to your energy system, your body is all energy. So it literally will help your elbow just by having the patch on your neck. And if you put two of them, it's still there. So it's not gonna it doesn't keep adding to it. So, but the mind is very powerful. So some people say, hey, if I'm gonna put this sticker on my elbow, because it's going to help me, and you think it's going to help you by putting it on your elbow, then put it on your elbow, right? Because your mind is really powerful in addition to the
Yes.
actual frequencies working. So we really believe in the whole mind, body, spirit connection is really, really important with what we do and what we teach. And so, does it matter technically? No. But mentally, it may help if you put it near where it goes. So that was one question. And yes, you can have external frequencies like 5G and all these other things that can have negative impacts on the human body, right? So there are bad frequencies, and so we need to do things like some of these EMF protectors. But man, a lot of those EMF protectors are just they're not very good. You have to be really careful that you're not spending money on something that's really not going to help. Uh,
Hmm.
those I caution a little bit about because it's like been so much research on a whole bunch of different devices, and very few of them work. So it's hard, but at the same
Yeah.
point, we do need to figure out ways to protect ourselves from negative frequencies.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. So, there's lots of people out there that might feel like they're stuck on the conventional medicine treadmill, so to
Yeah.
speak. Lots of appointments, but very few answers. What parallels or what things do you notice between what you saw in your corporate life and the way our healthcare system treats symptoms instead of the root causes?
Yeah, it's like I just get so frustrated with the way our system is today because I mean our like the doctors and nurses that are in our healthcare system are great, right? They really most of them really went into the system to try to help people,
So many good
which
people.
is
Yeah.
great. But the way our system is designed is it's so specialized that you have to know this, and you're a let's say a lung specialist, and you work on the lungs, and someone comes in with a problem with the lungs, and you might give them a pill that might help with a symptom for that lung issue. But guess what? Every drug that you take has side effects, and those side effects cause something else in some other organ of your body. But you're a lung specialist, you don't care about you do, but you don't think about
Right.
that, right?
That's
You're just
not your
helping them
focus.
with
Yeah.
their lung problem. But the thing that made me so opened up my eyes to this problem was as I was doing research on pain, I found out that 50% of our seniors have some type of chronic pain. And then they are taking up to 15 different prescription medications in a year. So think about that. Every single one of those medications has a side effect. And so they go see a specialist for foot pain, or neuropathy, and then they get a medicine for neuropathy that causes something wrong with their liver. And then, that liver issue, they go to see a doctor for their liver issue. And then the doctor gives them another prescription. And all of a sudden you've got all these prescriptions that you're taking are just cascading effects to bad health. And so I think that is a huge problem. Specialization. It's like they're too specialized, and they're not people that are like yourselves as a chiropractor, where you're looking at the whole human body, right? And how can I help you as a whole? And when we do look at the whole human body, then you can start looking at, okay, yes, you have pain in your elbow, but what's the source of that pain? Literally, the source of that pain could be something totally different than where your arm, right? And
Yeah.
so
I've literally seen it be a tooth or an
yes,
ankle
yeah.
or, all different sorts of things.
It's
Absolutely.
so, so, so important, and so that's why we need to just step back and look at the whole human body and treat the what's causing the symptom rather than treating just the symptom. So I'm just super passionate, and that's what got me into Exodus. Right, was like let's figure out ways where we can get this human body the nutrients that it needs so it can heal itself, and then that's what got me doing research on that when I was looking at the ways to help people. And I was introduced to that practitioner who had the molecular hydrogen component. And I was researching on what molecular hydrogen does, and that's got me just so excited because, like, holy smokes, if we can get hydrogen in the body and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, right? It goes everywhere in the body, so it helps everywhere. And I'm like, that's amazing. Then let's give it, let's add nutrients to it. So then your body gets the nutrients that it needs, and it's acting as a master antioxidant. So it gets rid of the bad stuff that's in your bloodstream, and you have an amazing tool to help people with their health. And so that's what's been really fun with Exodus is that we're like we have a product that is so beneficial. Like health practitioners are literally using it as kind of the base when they have people come into their practice. They're like, okay, we're going to go help you try to find out what's wrong. But here, first start taking Exodus because Exodus gives them the nutrients that they need and it starts clearing out their bloodstream. And then they go in and start trying to figure out what the source of the issue is, and they narrow it down with genetics and all different types of testing that you can do to help people discover what is really the root cause of the problem versus the symptom. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. I can talk about that product for forever because there's so many fun things with molecular hydrogen, and the 7 biblical ingredients we chose were all specific for a particular purpose, and those herbs are really helpful for the human body. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and going back to the molecular hydrogen,
Yeah.
that's been something that has, you know, is it's actually been up and coming for the last few years. I would say,
Yes.
maybe I think 5 or 6 years is really when I started hearing about it just a little
Right.
bit. And then I first started seeing some products and some really good companies out there coming up with some molecular um, hydrogen type products. What are some things that you see hydrogen doing in the cell, in the mitochondria, that maybe some other components aren't really able to accomplish?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about molecular hydrogen is like, and that I love the point people to a couple of websites like hydrogenstudies.com and molecularhydrogenstudies.com. You go to those, there's thousands of reports and scientific research that's been done on hydrogen in the human body. And so when you start deciphering those, it's really exciting because the molecular hydrogen creates these little nanobubbles in the bloodstream, and these little nanobubbles will go and it's kind of they like a search and destroy mission. They'll go look for bad things. They're called sentient cells or zombie cells in the body, that cells that are dead or that are just shouldn't be there. We all have them, but this attaches to those and then helps get rid of them, which is really cool. But then also, it acts as it helps the mitochondrial process work more efficiently. So it helps the good process, the mitochondria work better, and it gets rid of the bad. So it's like that's why it's such a cool thing. It's like it's called a selective oxidant or selective antioxidant rather than just an antioxidant. Because if it's antioxidant, it just gets rid of everything in the bloodstream, and that's actually bad. You don't want to get rid of everything. There's lots of really good things that you need in the bloodstream. So the molecular hydrogen is just so unique from that perspective that and then you start looking at the benefits of inflammation reduction and a lot of the things that molecular hydrogen does. And then that's why we added the 7 biblical ingredients with Exodus is we wanted to enhance it. So we put a barley grass and wheat grass in there, which give you the nutrients that most people are missing with our ultra processed foods and the soil being so destroyed that most people are not getting the 96 nutrients they need every day, right? Barley grass and wheatgrass are a really important part of that. And then we have saffron. Saffron in there is great for a stress reducer. In fact, it's the most expensive. It's more expensive than gold. Saffron is, which is pretty bizarre. But then we've got cumin and aloe. Those are really good for gut health for the aloe. And then you do cumin, frankincense, and myrrh, and those really help with that inflammation response. So that really, and if you talk to a lot of holistic doctors, and you do with your podcast, most holistic doctors talk about the gut is where your health begins, right? It's like, and if you don't have good gut health, then it's really hard for your body to operate correctly. And the inflammation, your gut controls a lot of inflammation in the body. That's where I was headed. So inflammation is the source of all disease. too. So if we can reduce inflammation in the body, we're gonna get rid of a lot of normal disease in the body. That's why it's like, wow, this thing is amazing. Molecular hydrogen is super, super cool. So let's enhance it with these biblical ingredients, get people feeling good. You also now you start having energy because you have the nutrients you need, and molecular hydrogen literally helps you with sustained energy. And then, it reduces inflammation. So there's like 5 different things that it helps the human body with. So it's just a amazing product. The biggest problem I have is no one knows about it, right? So, that's something, I thank you for letting us talk about it because it is an amazing product and more people need to use it because it's just super, super helpful.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. When it comes to the molecular hydrogen, does the delivery system make a difference? And how are how do you ensure that um, you're actually getting delivery into the body, and how do you know that that's happening?
Yeah,
Because I've seen
that's an
certain other
awesome
molecular
question.
hydrogens that are like dissolvable in water and things like that.
That's right, and then they have the machine little water bottles, right? You hit a button and it creates hydrogen in it. The problem with those water bottles is if you don't drink it will create hydrogen in the water, but if you don't drink it immediately, it dissolves. So,
Right.
like, yeah, you set it
Just
down for a
gases
minute
off. Yeah.
and it's just gone, right? Then there's no hydrogen in the water. You drink it and there's like you think you've drinking your hydrogen, but you're not. So that's frustrating because it's like, man, you need to gulp it like immediately as soon as you get the hydrogen. And then those water tablets work basically the same way. You have to wait for the tablet to dissolve, and
Hmm.
then when it's done dissolving, there is hydrogen there, but doesn't last very long. And so you need to drink it really quickly. And then even when you put it in your esophagus, and it goes into your esophagus and your mouth and into your gut, and by the time it gets to your gut and then starts your body starts absorbing it, it's diffusing the whole time. So the cool thing about Exodus is we have these capsules, and when you put them into your body, it goes into your stomach, and then the capsule dissolves. And the beautiful thing about it is your stomach creates the molecular hydrogen. So your stomach is creating the hydrogen, then your body, since your body is creating it, your body assimilates, all of it. And so it's much, much more powerful using our delivery mechanism than using a water bottle or using even hydrogen water, or you can even inhale hydrogen through these oxygen machines, right? Or these delivery mechanisms. But there's research on the inhalers that it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, so it doesn't get into the bloodstream. So you need to try to do it through the gut. And so that's why Exodus is such a amazing, amazing product, is because it does it. And your body, since your body's creating it, your body utilizes it more. That was a really good question that most people don't understand.
Yeah, it's a product, a type of product that I've worked with in the past and have, just a little bit of knowledge about, not
Yeah,
not a ton.
yeah,
So that it's a question I've had. So, thank you for answering that. One thing I wanted to touch on is part of your mission. I know is working to help more people jump into the Word. Get into Scripture
that's right.
and really read for themselves what God has to say. How are you doing that, and how is it going? And how can people learn more about that effort?
Yeah, it's a really important part of what we do, right? We believe that God created all of this, right? He led me down this path to create these solutions. He taught me about the biblical ingredients. He taught me about molecular hydrogen, and I'm just listening, right? I'm like, Lord, what can I do today, and how can I help make a difference in the world? And He just keeps taking me down this path, and I'm having a blast with light. I'm doing a lot with red light therapy right now because the combination of red light and the frequencies and hydrogen, you take the combination of those 3 things, and it just helps your mitochondrial, process just reset, which is really, really cool. But the 4th pillar is so important. It's called what we call the prayer guide. And, this prayer guide is so important that your faith is so, key part of this puzzle. The whole mind, body, spirit thing is real, and, this thing's fun because we have people say out loud, right? You're using your mouth to declare. There's power in the tongue. The Bible tells us there's power in the tongue. So if you read a Bible verse, you read an intention, a Bible verse, and a prayer. And if you read the Bible on how to pray, that's what it tells you to do, right? It's like be intentional about it, declare it with your mouth, and then learn the word, and then pray. And that's what we have people do every day. It just takes a short minute, minute and a half or two, and you're using your mouth to declare it, your eyes to read it, your ears to hear yourself say it, and then you're praying, right? So you're combining the whole mind, body, spirit connection to help you with your health, and that's the whole concept, right? Is we want to use our frequencies to help you. We want to use the internal body, the supplement, to help you within your bloodstream, and then we want to help your mind by praying and being intentional about and speaking it. And so you're using all of the God's given gifts and natural gifts to help you with your health. So our goal literally is to get 1 million new people to be reading the word every day through their health. Because it's simple, right? You can just like what's today? Today's a Wednesday, right? So it's just this short little prayer. It's an intention, a Bible verse, and a prayer. This is Nehemiah 8:10. So then he said to them, "Go your way, eat the fat, drink the sweet, and send portions to those for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy to our Lord. Do not sorrow, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." So you're literally declaring that, and then you pray, right? And then so anyway, that's what's so I'm having so much fun with is the biblical text is really powerful, and then just getting people's mind, body, spirit connection going. And we believe that combination, just no other company in the world is doing. And we think it's a really big differentiator in people's health.
I totally agree. When somebody's health issues, um, they can come from so many different places, so many different things, and emotional trauma is such a driver of chronic health issues. Physical trauma can be a driver of chronic health issues, but disconnection from God is
Yeah.
actually a driver of what I'm going to use the word dis-ease and kind of space those words out a little bit. You're just going to have a lack of peace,
Right.
and that's a contributor. And so helping out with Awanas, I don't know if you are familiar with Awanas, but I helped out
Yeah. What an
with
awesome program.
cubbies
Yeah.
for a few
My
years.
children went through that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so cubbies are 3 and 4 year old, and I worked really really hard to just get them to say word perfect a Bible verse, and I really focused on trying. I mean, it wasn't always easy, but with a 3 or 4 year old, but trying to get them to say out loud, word perfect, a Bible verse, because I knew that God's word has power, and just getting them to say it. I don't know what it's going to do in their life, but I trust that God is going to do something amazing with his word. And, he gave it to us for a reason. And then, Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth, you say it out loud, Jesus is Lord, and then you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you're going to be saved. And so there's power, as you talked about, with confessing out loud and talking out loud, reading out loud. Interestingly, I've tried to start reading my Bible out loud sometimes, and I did it just so it helped me pay better attention. But honestly, it's like almost like I'm hearing someone else read it to me, and I'm getting more out of it than I would when I would just read to myself quietly. And so I think there's something powerful there.
Yeah.
So
There
thank you
is.
for sharing that. Again, I know we're running out of time, but you have a website, and I'll definitely put the link down below this episode. It'll be below the audio version of the podcast in the description. It's going to be below the video version of this podcast on YouTube in the description there. But your website, exodusstrong.com. And you also have your own podcast called I Am Pain Free Podcast. Is there anywhere else that people could find you or learn more about what the work that you're doing?
Yeah, the only other one is QE Strong for the patches. If you're interested in those frequency patches, it's
Okay.
QEstrong.com. We're going to consolidate those all underneath the Exodus Strong brand at some point, but right now Exodus Strong has the supplements, and the QE Strong has the frequencies. And then I'm rebranding my podcast to Biohackingville. And so it's really exciting in the respect that I'm building these communities within biohacking. I'm really excited about the human body and how we can can use natural tools like, cold plunging and other things to help us with our health. And so I've got a community that we talk about all sorts of really awesome health and new remedies or new devices that come out, and we talk through a lot of those. So Biohackingville is an important piece of what I'm doing. And on my podcast, we talk about all different types of biohacking stuff. So you're welcome to get biohackingville.com as a community there that we thrive on talking about all these things. And if you're interested in supplements or interested in red light therapy, or you're interested in those types of things, we have a huge amount of information there for you to learn from.
Well, great. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rob, and thanks for sharing your story and the work that you're doing, and any parting words of wisdom for our listeners out there.
Yeah, I'm so excited about life, right? If you have breath in your lungs today, then God has a plan for your life. And so it doesn't matter how high or low you are in your daily, life. But if you it literally just have hope, right? That you do have breath in your lungs today and God has a plan for you. And so if he has a plan for you, you're not done yet. So then you can just start working with what is that plan. And then when you start getting towards and understanding what that plan is, your confidence grows, you start feeling better. And you're like, I am doing what God wanted me to do. And it takes a while to figure that out, but just know there's no desperation, right? If you have breath in your lungs, there is a plan. So just have hope that there is a plan, and that I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, right? When they understand there is hope, then they can live a better life and lead a better life. And then when you're leading a better life, you can bring others along with you. So that's what I want to do. I want to get people well. I want to get people healthy, and I want them to help have an impact on the kingdom by helping other people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Rob's links are going to be below this episode in the description on YouTube and on the audio version of this podcast. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Discover Health Podcast.
God bless.
Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health Podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.